Hi, so we are going to go ahead and do the step-by-step tutorial on how to make the pages, each of the pages, in my Merry and Bright Christmas album. This is my latest design team project for Country Craft Creations. I did a walkthrough video previously, so you can feel free to watch that on my YouTube channel and you can see just what every page looks like. What this is a series of, well, there are 5 pages. You can do 5, you can choose to do 6, you can choose to do 8, whatever you'd like. But essentially they are, as you can see, I did 5, and they are, the base page is basically just a sleeve. And then we build onto those sleeves, we build on flaps and pockets and tags and all kind of good fun stuff. So we're going to go ahead and do page 1. And this is just one flap. And then there's 2 diagonal pockets. And then on the back, there are 2 flaps. And then just another little small pocket. So again, this is very, very simple. So let's get started with that. You can also, down below there will also be a cutting guide to let you know the exact dimensions. So don't try to scramble and figure out what the dimensions are, because I will give you that as we go. Alright, so for page 1, and I did this with craft colored cardstock. I always think black is too hard to follow. It's too hard to see score marks. So anyway, so for page 1, what you're going to need is, oh, come on, you're going to want one piece of cardstock, and again, in any color, in any cardstock that you like, 7 inches by 6 inches. Now my album is, the covers are 6.5 by 6.5, and the individual pages are 6 by 6. Again, since I made 5 pages, I am going to need 5 sleeves. So you're going to want, whether you cut them all at one time and then put your pages together, or do your cuts page by page. I don't recommend that. It just seems to take a really long time. So here's your 6 inches by 7 inches. You're going to want to score on the 7-inch side. You want to score a 1/2 inch on each side. Okay. And then you're going to want to burnish, fold it along those score lines on both sides. So what we're doing here is making our base page. Okay, and then you want to, just to remove some bulk, because there's going to be a lot of pages added onto this, like flaps and things like that. You don't want to just go ahead and, oops, I should probably do it here, tab your corners, or miter your corners, angle your corners. It's referred to many, many different ways. Okay. And then you have your choice also of adhesive that you want to use. Mostly through this album I use score tape, the double-sided sticky tape, because I am not, if I were giving this album away or selling it, I would use glue. But for just this, I'm going to show you on just this one. I'm using art glitter glue. I get mine at Country Craft Creations. It's fantastic. So what you're going to want to do is just add some glue on there, and it dries super, super quickly. And I hope you can see that. And then just going to go ahead and take that 6 by 6 piece of paper. And we're just making a sleeve. So we glued that side down. And I'm off a little bit, but that's okay. Then you want to come to the other side, do the same thing. You don't need a lot of this glue because it dries so quickly. There you go. So that is the first sleeve, as I mentioned earlier. So while you're putting your pages together, you always want to make sure that you have your opening or the left side is where your binding is going to be. You always want that on the left, and then you have this opening here on the right. That is where I have this tag sticking out of. So again, my binding is on the left, and the tag opening is on the right. I can't tell you how many times I've done it backwards and my pages are upside down. So, it's you just learn as you go. So next we're going to do the flap. So for this flap, you're going to want one flap, and it measures 6.5 by 6. Okay, and as you can see, I scored it. I think you can see that. I scored it at 1/2 inch. Yeah, let me show you. Get your scoreboard. So what I did is I put it in my scoreboard. The 6.5 inch side is at the top on the right. And then you just take whatever scoring tool you like and score at 1/2 inch. Okay? Right. So then what we're going to do is fold along that score line and give it a bit of a burnish. Right, then you want to take your glue. Oops, forgot to tab the corner. Angle your corners. Alright, then give yourself a little bit of glue. Again, you don't really need a lot. Alright, so again, here is our sleeve for our first page. My binding side is on my left. I'm just going to take that top flap, and I'm turning mine to make it easier for me. But this is my top. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to line up at one corner. And then kind of chase it with my other fingers. Just try to line it up as best you can. Keep it as square as you can. And there we go. There's our first flap. So this is the beginning of the front of page 1. And we just added that first flap. So now what we're going to do is we are going to add, excuse me, we're going to add the 2 diagonal pockets. So what you want for this one is you want one piece of cardstock that measures 3.5 by 6 inches. Okay, and then what you want to do is score 1/2 inch on both sides. Oh, sorry, no. What you want to do before you score it, I suppose you could score it first, but what you want to do is you want to cut this on a diagonal. So your piece is going to be, let me put that in there. Your piece is going to be 3.5 by 6, so it's going to look just like that. Okay, so then what you want to do is line up this line right here on my cutter. As you can see, it's been engraved. It's a big ditch now. But you want to line up one corner of your 3.5 by 6 piece of cardstock on that line, the very, very tippy top. Let me see if I can bring it up and you can see it. Do you see that? The very, very tip is lined up right there. All right, and then also down on this end, that tip, whoops, is also lined up. Or maybe you're just better than I am, and you can eyeball that and cut it and make it straight, but I can't. I have a really hard time. So, and then what you would just do is put in your cutter and cut it, and you end up with 2 pieces. Okay. So then you want to take it and put it in your scoreboard and score 1/2 inch on the short side and a 1/2 inch on this one long side. I hope that makes sense. And then what I do is I even have to go so far, because I guess I'm not so bright, is I have to put an R and an L on mine, one for the right and one for the left. Especially if you're using pattern paper, it can be, and if you have some sort of pattern in it, directional pattern, it can really get messed up. So what you want to do is go ahead and fold on those score lines after you scored it. And then give it a good burnish. And take your scissors and cut off that excess. There. And then what we're also going to do is right there where those two score lines meet. That's better. You can see there's that little extra square. We really don't need that. So what we do is just come in, angle it there, and angle it there. And that's what you end up with. So that's the piece. Is that the piece I just cut off? That's the piece I just cut off. All right? So again, you're just removing some bulk. So again, just want to take a little bit of glue. This one's a little bit tricky because there's two. I find it's easier to put the glue down on that bottom part first and kind of let it catch, and then it lays flatter for you. Oops, one thing I forgot to do on this side, let's cut that little bit of excess off. Right, and then let's glue that up a little bit. Okay, so then we're going to take this and we're going to line this bottom right corner to the bottom right corner here on your page. Just line that up there, keep everything lined up as close to the edge as possible without hanging over, and just hold that down for a second. Give a little bit of help. Let's see if I have a piece of pattern paper. As you can see, I just slid that little piece of paper there. Now we've made a pocket. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the left side. All right, so first we want to fold on our score marks. Trim off that little bit of excess. That little bit of excess. And then we're going to get rid of that little square. Okay. At this point, you can decide whether you want your pocket to go this way. I think that's the easiest way to do it. If you put the left side over the right side, I think in my book I did it the reverse. It just depends on my mood. But it's definitely easier to put it on top. Alright. So give that a good bit of glue. Again, we're going to match the bottom left corner with the bottom left corner on your page. Alright. And again, just try to line that up as best you can and hold it down for a minute until that glue grabs. Our glitter glue dries pretty quickly, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. Alright, so you see, there's your pocket there, and it comes all the way over to here, and then there's a pocket on the inside. So you can fit many, many tags. And then you can, I wrote all over mine, as I mentioned. You can either just erase that, you can leave that blank. Another thing that you might want to consider is maybe putting the pattern paper on this page, on the bottom of the page first before you add the pockets. You really shouldn't have much of a problem. If you can see down in there, right down there, I never put the pattern paper down first. I never really have a problem because I always try to leave at least 1/8 of an inch border on my excuse me, pattern paper, so you really shouldn't have any struggles in getting the paper to line up. But if you think you might, then I would suggest go ahead and put the pattern paper down first, then add your pockets. Okay, so that's what I'm calling page 1, the front of page 1. There's your flap and your 2 pockets. What could be really nice is you could also use a border punch. I happen to have this one right here. You can punch this, or you can use or I have another one. I have this one sitting here on my desk. Don't know what the name of that one is either. Or you can use a border die. That would be really nice. I mean, you have a lot of options. Or you can just leave a square like I did. All right, so then we're going to turn it over. Again, you want to make sure that your binding is going to be on the left and that everything is not upside down like mine was. Okay, so we just made this page. We made the flap and the 2 pockets. All right, so now we're going to make this page. We're going to do these 2 flaps and that little pocket. All right. So what you're going to want for this one, for the 2 flaps, you're going to want 1 flap that is 5 inches, or I'm sorry, 1 piece of cardstock that is 5 inches by 6 inches. Again, the 6 inches is the height of our book, of our page, and the 5 inches is the width. And then you want another one that's 5.5 by 6. That's for flap number 2. All right, so for flap number 1, for both of these flaps, on the, let me see, what did I do? On the 5-inch side, you're going to want to score at 1/2 of an inch on flap number 1. And then on flap number 2, you're going to want to put it in your scoreboard with the 5.5-inch side on the top right and score at 1/2 of an inch. All right, so what we're doing is we are making the 2 flaps, the 2 tabs that are going to hold our flap. Okay, so you want to fold on your score line, give it a good burnish, make it nice and a sharp fold. Same with flap number 2. Great. And you can trim your corners. Alright. Some glue. Okay. So, again, make sure your page is right side up. If it helps you, you can always put, since you're covering this with pattern paper anyway, what helps me is I'll put a little arrow pointing upwards so that I always remember which side is up. Like I said, I put on many of these upside down. So put your glue on your tab, and I'm just going to turn it this way to make it easier for me. I'm just going to take this tab, or this flap, line it up as straight as I can, and stick it down. So there's flap number 1. Okay. Then you just do the same thing for flap number 2. Just make sure you get a nice crease. Add your glue or your score tape, whatever you like. Okay, now this one is going to go right next to the first one. I mean, you have a choice. You can put it, here is the tab from the first one. You can choose to put it right next to it like this, or you can put it right on top of it, right next to the fold. What I did was I put it right next to the first one. And stick it down. Okay. So there's your, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting I moved my camera. So there is your first flap. You can see there's a nice 1/2 inch space here. And then here's your second flap, and there's still a 1/2 inch over here. And then what I did in mine, because I put the tabs side by side, I believe I did. Yep, I just cut a 3/8 inch piece of the pattern paper and just kind of close that up. You don't really have to. You could use some washi tape. You can do whatever you want. You could leave it blank. But that just kind of, for me, it just kind of finishes it off. Okay, and then the next thing was that smaller pocket on the inside. That is actually a 3x4 journaling card. So I just turned that into just a little pocket. Let me see if I can find one here. Let's take one out of there. All right, so I just took my 3x4 journaling card, and I used an edge punch. I believe I used this one. The Deco and the Stub edge punch, corner chomper, or whatever this is called. And I just chomped that corner and that corner. Then I took some of my glue and applied in an L shape along the left side and the bottom, because we want to keep one side of it open. Now I would definitely suggest you cover this with pattern paper first. Again, you don't necessarily have to. Then you want to get as close as you can to that fold of that second flap and place that down. Let that glue catch. You don't want to go over the fold, but you want to get as close as you can, so that your pages will close. Now, if you're going to use some magnets, I suggest you go ahead and apply the magnets at this point before you put down any pattern paper. So as you can see, that's already dry. That's a little pocket. There you go. And page one front and page one back is finished. So that's pretty quick. All right. So now page 2, I will show you in the book. Page 2 has 3 little flaps and an angled pocket on the inside. All right, again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I went ahead and created a base page already. So what you'll want is your base page, and again, you'll need for base page 1 piece of cardstock that is 7 inches by 6 inches. And on the long side, or the 7-inch side, you're going to score each end at 1/2 inch, and then you're going to want to cut, the top piece is 6 by 6, and that just rests over top those tabs, and that makes your sleeve. Okay, again, your opening for your binding is on your left. And then the 3 tabs, you can choose to go large, medium, small, or you can do small, medium, large, however you choose. I'm just going to go ahead and do it the same way I did in the book. So you're going to need 1 piece of cardstock that is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. And then you're going to put the 4 3/4 side in your scoreboard and score it 1/2 inch. you need the second one, 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, and then you score with the 5 1/4 at the top of your scoreboard. So when I say the long side is at the top of your scoreboard, in this instance, the longer side is the 5 1/4. So that goes in your scoreboard, and you score on one side at a 1/2 inch. Hope that makes sense. And then flap number 3 is a 5 3/4 by 3 1/2, and with the long side at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Okay? And as you can see, I already put score tape on mine. So what I'm going to do, I already folded them, and I already creased them. Cut off my angles. And I'll just start with the top. Actually, that's really not good enough crease. Alright. So, again, you want to make sure your opening is on your left. And then what I'm going to do is start all the way at the top here. And just line up this top left edge with the top left edge of your base page. And just get it as straight as you can. You know, it's homemade. My sister and I always say it's not supposed to look perfect when it's homemade. Okay, so the next one is your middle tag. And that tag is 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. So you're going to want to tab those corners or angle those corners. Yeah, I did that one. Okay, and you're just going to put it right on top of the first one that you already set down. All right, just kind of eyeball it. If you want to measure it, feel free to measure it. So it all depends on my mood. Some days I do, some days I don't. So you just kind of lay it right on top of that last one. Give it a good burnish. So you can see here's the middle one. There's the top one. Oh, I did screw that up. Oh, you big dummy. Okay, so piece of advice. If you don't have one of these, you need to get you one of these. This is the spatula that came with my Cricut machine. Don't think I've ever used it with the Cricut. All I use it for is when I make mistakes, such as that. So, what you want to do is open this one and, again, just eyeball it. Get it in there close to the edge, but obviously you don't want to go over the edge. Okay. All right, so then this one, same thing. Also back to this. Yeah, this is the best tool ever, and especially if you're using score tape. It pulls it right off without tearing your paper. All right, and then your last one. Again, you line your bottom left corner with the bottom left of or as close to as you can get it. But again, you want to get close to the fold without going over the fold of the prior tab. So yeah, this one does look different than the other one I made, but that's okay. So you have a larger flap, a medium-sized flap and a smaller flap. All right? And if you're going to use magnets, I would probably suggest putting one magnet somewhere on here and another down here, because that would hold all of this closed. But depending on what you're going to do with it, once you get the paper on and you start adding pictures, I think it's pretty much heavy enough to hold it. Some days I like to use magnets, some days not. All right, so next we're going to do that inside pocket. And, oh God, help me, it's another diagonal pocket. Okay, so what you want to do is cut one piece that's of cardstock that's 5 inches by 6 inches. You're going to put that in your cutter again and cut it on the diagonal, just like we did on the first page. All right, then you want to fold, get rid of that excess, give it a good burnish, another good burnish, get rid of that excess. All right, and again, we have that little extra square there. Let's go ahead and miter that out or angle that right off of there. Okay? As you can see, then we have our diagonal pocket. Again, you can choose to cover this with pattern paper first, or you can just make sure you give yourself, you really don't need to, just make sure you give yourself at least 1/8 of an inch border on your pattern paper. Alright, so I didn't put score tape on this, so I guess I will be gluing this one. Some glue. Hold that down a sec. Glue up this end. Okay. I guess you can make the choice here as well before you put it down whether you want the pocket to go this way, or if you turn it this way, it can go this way. This is just the way I did it before, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that again. Oh, jeez.
What does she want? What does she want?
You guys just heard my sister's ringtone. Sorry about that. I forgot to shut off my phone. Oh, that's funny. All right, so you're going to take the bottom right of your diagonal pocket and line it up with the bottom right of your page. Just give that a minute to catch. That's so funny. Alright, so there's your pocket. You can see that art glitter glue dries super fast. So, I don't know if you can get inside there. See inside there? Yeah, so then the front of page 2 is done. So turn that over, again making sure that the top is facing the right direction. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and do the back of page 2. This is a pretty easy one. Basically, it just has a belly band on it. So in this case, I would recommend that you put the pattern paper down first, because it just makes it much easier. So I would go ahead and cover it with pattern paper first. You don't necessarily have to, and I'll show you how you can get around that. And then there's just this little stopper. It's a little epoxy sticker I have on. I added onto a piece of cardstock and cut it out. Didn't fussy cut it per se, but I just cut it pretty close because I wanted that to show, that red paper to show. So that's what we're going to make. See, this is moving right along. All right, so if you, well, what you're going to need for your belly band is one piece that is 3 inches by 7 inches, and you're going to want to score on the 7-inch side in your scoreboard, a 1/2 inch on this side. You rotate it and score a 1/2 inch on this side. All right. Now you have two choices here. If you don't want to cover it with pattern, if you're going to cover it with pattern paper, that's great. Then what you're going to do is just put your score tape or your glue on it and just line them up. Whether you want to do it in the center, at the top, at the bottom, you would just line it up like that, right? Like so. Or if you're not going to put the pattern paper down first, what you want to do is put your glue or your adhesive on the inside of the tab. As you can see here, it's on the outside of my tab. I hope that makes sense. Okay, you put the adhesive on the inside of the tab, and then you can actually wrap that inside. Since both of your right and your left side are open, you can take that and make it fit as best you can. Come on. You might have to adjust your score line a little bit, but you can just put it inside your sleeve. So it would kind of, it would look something like that inside the sleeve. All right, but for my purposes today, I'm just going to go ahead, remove my score tape. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's top of the page and try to find, you know, the middle-ish, close to the center as you can get it. And you want to make it as straight as you can. Take off my score tape and just go ahead and line it up. Give that a good burnish, give that a good crease so that it creases with the rest of the page. And there's your belly band. I would suggest one thing that I do suggest you do is once you cover this with pattern paper, go ahead and put some sort of a stopper here. You know, if you're using some sort of a kit, or if you have an entire paper collection, just go ahead and get yourself one of the chipboard elements. Put some adhesive only on half of it so that the piece sticks up, and whatever card or whatever tag you put through here, it would slide. If my finger were the element, it would just slide right below it and just keep it from, you know, when you lift the book up, it would just keep everything from falling out the bottom. So, I hope that makes sense. So, okay, that's page 2. Done. So, see, it's not too difficult. Page 3. Page 3 is just a classic, what I call a classic pocket page. There are 2 larger pockets, one here and one here. They just hold a couple of tags. Now you can make these diagonal pockets if you wanted to, or they would go this way or this way. I just decided to go straight horizontal pockets because my belly band of the previous page we just made was right next to it, so I wanted to keep it consistent. All right, so for that page, you're going to need your base page. So you're going to go ahead and put together your base page or your sleeve, right? Then you're going to need, for the bottom pocket, you're going to want one piece at 3 inches by 7 inches. In your scoreboard, with the 7-inch side, the long side at the top of the scoreboard, score 1/2 inch on the left-hand side, rotate it around, and then score 1/2 inch again. Okay? Then the top pocket is a 2.5 inch by 7 inch piece of cardstock. Again, with the long side at the top in the scoreboard, you're going to score 1/2 inch, rotate it, and then score 1/2 inch again. All right? So, oh, I just realized. Thanks. Oh yeah, I did not, that's okay. I'm just messing this one up like crazy today. Alright, so what you want to do is go ahead and fold on your score lines and give it a good burnish, crease that edge. Same on the right side. What I should have done is made this 3.5 inches because I want to make a pocket. So instead of having a flap to close my pocket, I'm going to just use a bead of glue. Whoops, I'm just going to use a bead of glue along the bottom. So go ahead and tab your corners. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and fold the crease on the 2.5 by 7-inch side. Right, so back to the bottom pocket, because I'm a big dummy and I forgot my tab. I'm just going to use a thin little bead of glue along the bottom to keep everything from falling out of my pocket. And then just go ahead, give yourself some glue on that tab. Oops. And give yourself some glue on this tab. Alright. Then I'm just going to line this up along the bottom of your base page as straight as possible. Now you notice I didn't necessarily recommend that you cover the base page with pattern paper before you put down the pocket. I don't think it's necessary. If it bothers you, I know it bothers some people that when you look in the pocket, you see the naked page, right? I really don't care about that. So I would take the piece of pattern paper and probably extend it down about 1 inch or so, or maybe even just 1/2 inch. Because my opinion is you have all this paper that's not seen anyway, and it's just going to be wasted. So, yeah. So I would just say, save that extra piece of paper. Maybe you could use it for a tag. So anyway, okay, so pocket number 2. Now you notice I didn't, I purposely on this one did not put a bottom tag or tab on this one, because this essentially doesn't need it. What you can do is we're just going to line this up really close to the top of the previous pocket. Excuse me. And then we're just going to glue that down. Oops, forgot to tab our corners. Glue that down. I've also seen this done where you can actually cut it on an angle like that. Let's do that. Where you can cut it on an angle like this. Let me see if I can match that. Okay, so you can see that kind of, then that can slide right inside that pocket. So you see what it gives you? It gives you a much wider pocket up here. Okay. Then all we're going to do is put some glue on these little tabby doodle things. And I don't recommend, when you're making pockets, I don't recommend score tape because if you're not super careful and if you don't line it up just perfectly so, when you put a tag in, your tag could get stuck in that score tape adhesive, because score tape adhesive never completely dries. So you're just going to want to be careful with that. So there you have 3 pockets. That one and then that one. And because we didn't put glue along the bottom of the second pocket, we have a pocket that goes all the way to the bottom. Right? So you can put bigger tags. Yeah. So I kind of like it. All right. So that's the front of page 3. The back of page 3, I just kept it very simple. Oops, nice if you could see it. Kept it very simple. Just added some pretty plaid cardstock. And then I decided to use, this was one of the very large sticker from the collection, and I put it on a piece of red cardstock. Just kind of like gave it a silhouette behind it. I didn't necessarily fussy cut it. Then I just glued it along this side and down along the bottom like that. And that makes a pocket of sorts to hold some tags, right? So that page is done. So all you have to do is, oh, I'm sorry, that's not done. This is the first part, the front part of the back of page 3. This is a flap, and then you have this underneath the flap. All right. So where's my flap? Okay, so for page 3, the dimensions of the flap are 5.5 inches by 6 inches. And with the 5.5 inch side, the short side in your scoreboard on the top right, score at 1/2 inch. Let's go ahead and trim your corners. I'm just going to go ahead and fold that and crease that one more time. Okay, now you can decide whether you want your flap to flap open to the right, or do you want it to flap open to the left? It was getting on my nerves flapping open to the right on this one, so I think I'm going to add it to the left. Oops, did I do something wrong? No, okay. So go ahead and remove your score tape. Again, I'm not concerned with using score tape on flaps because, there we go. Get that a good crease. Because nothing's really going to come in contact with it like it would in a pocket. You know, it would cause some interference in a pocket. So, again, that would be really cute with some sort of edge punch or a border punch. On all your flaps, you could use, oh, this went right out of my brain. The corner chomper, like the deco or the stub, or I have a scallop, or you can even just angle them, or you can leave them as they are. So there's your page 3. Done. So see, it's going along pretty quickly. All right, page 4. Page 4 is one more involved. This is what I call a gatefold page. You can see it opens like a gate, right? And it's held, if you hear that, I do have a magnet that I have, it's right in here somewhere. It's right there. I took a 3x4 journaling card and I just backed it with cardstock. I stuck the magnet in between there. Then there's also a magnet right in here. Because this can get a little bit bulky, the magnet just helps hold it closed. Okay? And then there's also, you know, the inside flaps. And then I just put a little pocket here. So it's not really, see, that's what's been bugging me from the previous page. So yeah, I'm glad I put it on the other side. Okay, so let's make page 4. With page 4, you're going to want to start with your base page. Where is it? Oh, here's the base page. Okay. There we go. All right. So you're going to want to put together your base page or your sleeve. Okay. Just like we did previously. All right, so then what you need for the 2 gatefold pieces, which go this way, and again, I marked them left and right. You need you need 2 of them that are 3.5 by 6. All right, actually, you probably should cut them down just a little bit. It depends on where you place them. So then what you want to do with the 3.5 inch side, and the short side in your scoreboard, go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch. Same thing with the second flap. All right, so I'm thinking maybe we might want to take just a little sliver off because we don't want, unless you want the pages to overlap, the flaps to overlap, that's fine. You can do that, but I just don't want them to get all wrinkled up. Actually, whew, mine are spot on. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you give that a really good crease. So I'm just going to start with the right side. I'm right-handed. I tend to start everything with my right. Right, so I take the bottom right corner, match it up to the bottom right corner of my base page, and then just try to keep it as straight with the edge as possible. So that's really all there is to that. Just like any other flap we've made so far. Then we're going to take the one that's marked left. Remove your score tape or add your adhesive. If you want to use glue, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to take my top left and match it up to my top left over here on my base page. Line up the very, very tippy top and then try to keep it as straight as possible going down along the edge of your base page. See, I'm not always successful, but that was pretty good. Right, so you see you have, there's your gatefold. Like I said, you could, at this point, if you wanted to use seam binding instead of a magnet, that always looks really pretty as well. You can run the seam binding here and then just tie it, glue the seam binding here, and then just tie a pretty bow, and that would hold it shut. Or again, you can use magnets. But I do recommend some sort of a closure when you do a gatefold. Something to hold it closed. All right, so then we're going to move to the inside of that page, and we're going to make that inside pocket just like we've done a few times already. Oops, there we go. So this one measures 3.5 by 7 inches. With a 7-inch side in your scoreboard, top of your scoreboard, you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left, rotate it, whichever way you want to rotate it, a 1/2 inch on the right, then rotate it to the short edge in your scoreboard and score a 1/2 inch. Let me show you that. I don't think I showed you that. Let's do that one more time. So you have your 7-inch side. Hope you can see that. 7 inches. Then you're going to score it a 1/2 inch. Rotate it, turn it around, and score a 1/2 inch on the other side. Then rotate it halfway and then score a 1/2 inch there. So the goal is to have a score mark on 3 of the 4 sides, the 2 short sides and the 1 long side. All right, so then go ahead and fold on that score line, give it a good crease. Do the same on the short sides. Sorry, my table's a little bit creaky. All right. So once you're finished with the scoring, just go ahead and trim off your corners. Then we have, in this case, we have another one of those little squares that's waste. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim those off. Do the same on the right side. Okay, and I did say that we probably shouldn't use score tape on the pocket, didn't I? Well, we probably shouldn't, but in this case, I'm going to, for our purposes today, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So what I do first is take the score tape off of the bottom and then stick down the 2 sides. Just makes it that, it's just so much easier to work with. And then, so what you want to do is make sure your pocket, without going over either one of these 2 edges here, because it'll make it too bulky, you want to line it up as close as you can without going over that edge. And line up the bottom, oops. Okay. Then you're just going to take the score tape off on one side. Oops, it doesn't want to come off. Stick it down, take it off the other side and stick it down. Now see, that one for me is a little too close to the edge. This one closes nicely. This one, I'm gonna have to get creative. Alright, it's just a matter of, there we go. Alright, so there's your gatefold, and there's your inside pocket. Alright, so the front of page 4 is done. The back, let's take a look at the back. Has a flap. Oop. It has a flap that opens upwards. Then it also has a side pocket. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let's make sure you have the right side up. Again, your binding side is on your left, your binding opening is on your left. And then what you need is, for your flap, 1 sheet cardstock, 4.5 by 6.5. You want to put the long edge in your scoreboard and score it 1/2 inch. Then another pocket. This again is 3.5 by 7, and you're going to score 1/2 inch on all 3 sides. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, start with the flap first. So you're going to want to make sure you fold it on the score line and give it a good crease. Then remove your score tape backing or add your glue. Alright, so I'm just going to turn mine upside down so I make sure I put this on straight. You're going to want to match up this edge to this edge. And stick it down. So there is your flap, and again, I just think it would be really, really cute if it had some sort of an edge punch here. Actually, I will show you one of those. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. It's easier to do. I don't recommend doing it when you already put the flap on. It's easier to do this before you adhere the flap. So if you have some of these Martha Stewart punches, they're awesome. The light's glaring on it and I can't see it. Okay, I didn't screw that up too badly. So see, that's just super cute, I think. It's a super cute edge. And if you want to go ahead and ink your edges or something, I just think that would be super cute. Or you could put a little piece of cardstock behind it, and I don't know if you can see that on the screen, where that would, the green just kind of shows through. I just think that's super cute. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to do the side pocket. Again, it's 3.5 by 7 inches, and we scored 1/2 inch on 3 of the 4 sides. We're going to fold on our score lines and burnish. Really crease it really well, since it's a pocket. You want it to be very, you don't want it to be too bulky. So same routine, tab your corners. Come on back here, we'll do it this way. Come back down here and remove that little excess square. Alright. Take your adhesive off. I'm just going to do this all in one fell swoop. Okay. So again, your binding side is on your left. I'm going to rotate mine. I'm going to put my pocket along the left-hand side. You could put the pocket along the right-hand side if you chose. I just chose the left for I don't know what reason. So I'm going to take this corner, match it up to this corner down here. Get as close as you can without going over that fold of this tab. So let's stick it down and give it another good crease. So again, you can use some sort of ribbon to tie this closed, but you'll find that it eventually, when you put the heavier pattern paper on top, it does eventually just lay nice and flat. And then you can put pattern paper here and here, and then just add some tags in your side pocket. So that, folks, is page 4. Okay, let's clean up a little for the next one. Page 5 is again another simple page. It's a pocket page with a flap. I do have a magnet on there holding that closed. It is, my magnet's right about here, and it's right here on the pocket, in between the cardstock of the pocket and the pattern paper. So what we have is a little bit of a deeper pocket and then a little bit of a longer flap, and then I just added one of the chipboard elements as kind of like a little pull type of a thing. Just makes it easier to open. So we're going to go ahead and make that page. And just like the previous pages, what you need is your sleeve. Okay. And whoops, where'd that go? Alright, so we have a pocket and a flap. Start with the flap. That is, why do I have 2 score marks? Oh, I think I scored on the wrong side when I started. Anyway, the flap is 5 by 6, and it's going to go on the top of the page. It's going to flap up. Then we also have a pocket, and you need one piece at 4 3/4 by 7. And you're going to want to score 1/2 inch on all 3 of the 4 sides. Right, so we're going to go ahead, as you can see, when I was starting, I don't know if you can see it, I scored it on the wrong side. Instead of the short side, I scored it on the long side. But I didn't get rid of it because, I mean, it's not that it's wasted. This is going to get covered with paper anyway, so nobody will actually see that little boo-boo. Okay? So, anyway, go ahead, fold on your score line. Give it a really good crease. Let's angle your corners. Okay. Add your adhesive or remove your backing. So again, this is our base page or our base sleeve. Just line up as close as you can, keeping it as straight as you can across the top. So it's going to be at the top of the page flap. So there's your flap. And we're experts at this by now with this book. So now we can go ahead and add, or take our pocket page, and it's 4 3/4 by 7. We went ahead and scored it 1/2 inch on 2 short sides and 1 long side. So go ahead and give that a fold. Give that a really good crease on all those score lines. Okay. Alright, so then let's trim away the corners and the edges. and trim away that extra little square there. And on the other side. I hope I'm not moving too quickly. Now that I'm almost done, I'm sorry. But the beauty of watching the tutorial is you can stop me and start me whenever you need to. And this is how I learned. You know, just follow along, stopping videos, starting videos. I've had projects I've thrown away. I think we've all had those horrible, horrible experiences. So go ahead and line up your bottom left corner of your pocket page. Stick it down. Again, you want it to be as straight as you can. Mine's a tiny tad off on there. That's okay. Again, if you wanted to use a border punch or a die, that would be really, really cute. You could use 2 edge punches. You can use the corner chompers. There are just many, 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 many things you can do. One thing I did not do on my finished project, I meant to actually take, and I don't have it over here, I wanted to put in a thumb pull. This one might be too big. This is a 2-inch punch. Kind of put it in there, not quite. Just see that little mark there? And it's there on the punch as well. That is like 1/2 inch. That is a little bit too much. I'm going to come up just a little bit. This is going to go really badly, I'm sure. Ah, perfect. So see, it gives you that little bit of a pull there, like when you're putting. You can see it kind of is that little curve. So you don't have to do that. Just keep in mind if you do that on this, on the pocket, you're going to have to do that on the pattern paper as well, just so it lines up nicely. So there's our pocket. Again, I would suggest putting the magnets down now. If you want to use magnets. If not, this would be really nice, really cute. Again, put some ribbon seam binding. Let me see, I'll show you. I just happen to have some white here. I don't know if I have enough. Okay, what you can do, excuse me, you can use glue, you can use, whatever you have. Try to find the center. I'm just going to use a little bit of score tape for now. Put some score tape there. Give it a good burnish. And then take your piece of seam binding. And what's nice about this is it will be covered with the pattern paper, so it'll have that extra layer, like it won't come loose. And then let me just cut this real quick. Match that up. Put some more score tape, or like I said, or glue. However, whatever tickles your fancy. Remove that backing. And take that piece of seam binding. Then you could tie yourself a bow, or just, a little knot, or however you want to do it. And I did it backwards. Yikes. Did not mean to do that. I did it this way. There we go. This is probably too short for a bow. But you get the idea. Helps hold everything closed, keeps everything nice and neat. That is a sorry, sorry bow. That wasn't ready, people. Anyway, so you see that holds it closed. You get the idea. Okay? Alright, so then now you're on the back side. We're on the very last page. And this is also a pocket page. This is a good example of one, see, I'm not even going to pull that out of there. Did you hear that? It got stuck on the score tape. Oh, dang it. I used score tape on here instead of wet glue, and my tag was getting stuck in the score tape. Anyway, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3 pockets. Actually, yeah, 1, 2, 3 pockets. Okay, put this back in. Do this one. Ay, ay, ay. What a day. Okay, that one, and then that one fits there. Alright, so what you need is one, this should be familiar by now, 3.5 by 7 inches for your pocket. Score it on 3 sides at 1/2 inch, and I did not use my score tape yet. Whoops. So then we're going to fold our score lines just like we did in the last one. One more time. Right, and then tab your corners. And let's remove that extra square. Right. Whoopsie. You can hear how strong that score tape is. Again, when you're doing this pocket, I can't recommend enough that you don't use score tape, use glue. Alright, so make sure you have the right side facing up. And go ahead, this is a side-facing pocket. So I'm going to take my corner of my pocket, match it up to this corner here on my base page. Again, as close as possible to the edges without hanging it over the edge. And then if you give it a nice crease, that actually helps get rid of bulk. Alright, so this is a trick that I learned. I don't remember exactly who I learned it from, but again, in an effort to just save a little extra paper. So we're going to have these two strips, which are, I believe, 1 inch. Yep, 1 inch by 7 inches. And we're going to turn this into 2 pockets. Okay, so what you're going to do on the 7-inch side, score 1/2 inch on each of, and then rotate, and then 1/2 inch on the other side. And go ahead and fold, increase it. Do the same on the second one. Okay, then what we're going to do, hope you can see that. Yeah, I know you're saying that it doesn't really look like pockets now, but it will in a minute. So, again, this is where, if you want to avoid your tags, getting stuck, oh, come on. I highly recommend you use wet glue for this, not score tape. Alright, so just, you kind of want to eyeball it. Kind of want to get it, this is the edge of the first pocket we put down. Maybe 1/4 inch, depends on how big you want your pocket to be, or how, how tall you want your pocket to be. And just go ahead and stick that down. Hold that there for a second, make sure the glue catches. Oh. Don't do what I did because it didn't catch. Give it a minute. Okay, let me find a piece of paper for you. So, that's not going to fit. Let me cut that down. So while that's drying, I'm just going to get a little Alright, so you can see, you're like, how can that be a pocket, right? Because the other pocket is here. We're just going to take the pattern paper. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, yeah. Take the pattern paper, cut it down to size, of course. Then you're going to just give it, maybe an inch beyond the pocket in front of it, or the pocket below it, and then glue it down, because that will make this one nice and smooth. Let me see. I just want to do that with you because I feel like it's a little bit confusing. Alright, so you have this pocket base here that's 1 inch. Add an inch onto that, and so I'm going to go with 2 inches. Let me cut this down to just below 6 inches. Okay, so that should fit. Alright, so you have your pattern paper, you're going to put that there. Of course, it's there. So this first pocket we added is going to have that pattern paper. This next pocket is the pattern paper is going to slide down into this pocket. Give it a little bit of a border. So you see? So then we're going to take our second 1 inch piece, put some more glue on. Now you can split the distance between here and the top of the page, or however you choose to do it. That's up to you. Or you don't have to do it at all if you only want 1 page. It's the beauty of it. It's your project. You do what you want to do. Alright. So we have one more. Let me see if I can find. Again, I'm going to cut this 2 inches by just shy of 6 inches. And it gives me that little border. So then I would take, oh, you're kidding me, it's too big. Alright, so then it would cover that pocket. But you get the idea. So it makes it nice and smooth so that when you put your tag in, your tag can go all the way to the bottom of the page. And this one back here will go all the way to the bottom of the page. I hope that makes sense to you. It's clear as mud. Again, just message me. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have. But that gives you an idea of what it might look like. And then what I did along this, just for further separation of the pockets, I know the paper separates the pockets, but I put a thin piece of lace here with an even thinner piece of sparkly ribbon on mine. No, I didn't. That was the other one. I just lied to you. No. So you can see it will hold. This is, whoopsie. This is 5 3/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches, including the cardstock. So you can see it will hold a nice size tag. So you should be able to hold 3 tags. So that's it. So all your pages, oh, I almost panicked. I forgot they were sideways pockets. Woo! All right, so let's put these all back in order. 4, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so there's all 5 of your pages. Again, the binding. I just feel like the binding is such a personal decision. There are, and I know on Tammy's YouTube channel, or even on Country Craft Creations and the video files, there are many examples of how to do the hidden hinge. I'm not a fan of that. I use a different binding system. So if, obviously you feel free. It was created by a different designer, so I don't want to actually, I'm not going to show that here, but if you just send me a message, I can point you in the right direction. But like I said, Tammy has so many fantastic free videos. Why would you pay for it? I just don't get, why would you pay for a tutorial if you didn't need to? So that is my book. Let's see, I think it's taken just about an hour or so. I think anybody can do it, any skill level. I'm so anxious to see if anybody, so excited to see. If you make the album, please post a photo, either over in Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, or send me a link on my YouTube channel. I'd love to see what it looks like. And as always, if you have any questions, please post them below. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Sorry for the couple of little mix-ups. And until next time, thanks. Bye.